أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وآله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, embarking on our topic of Salah, obviously, what we understand from Salah, and today we'll give a prelude, is that together with being a prayer, it's a form of a very intimate connection with the one we call our God, who also introduces himself as the friend and as the Lord, the one who nurtures us. Now, it's very important for us to understand that Allah, by definition, as the unknown one, is unreachable until we are effaced fully. But Allah, as the author of humanity, has taken upon himself the role of a parent, a parental role. And that is why he is known as the Rabb, the Lord, the one who nurtures. Now, here, as the Lord, by definition, he has to be needless of any want of worship or devotion. Now, if he is needless of it, then why would he oblige us to pray and to fast and so on and so forth? We need to understand that devotion cannot be obliged in that spiritual sense. We can oblige people to serve us physically when we owe our time to them. If we made a pact with God prior to the state of worldly life that we will serve him, then in this world we are obliged by that pact to serve God. But what we understand by ibadah, servitude, here, now, from the time of the Blessed Prophet Muhammad and previously, is not physically working for God, but it is to devote ourselves spiritually to God in the sense that we give away our ego and our want and prefer God's want above ours. And what does God want from us? To refine ourselves internally and to do good to his creatures. So that ibadah in that sense, spiritually surrendering to God, psychologically giving in to God, cannot be obliged. You cannot make that wajib. So why does God make it wajib? It has to be understood accurately that God, as the parental one, behaves like an instructor and behaves like a parent. They know that the children at times are not capable of understanding what is good for them. So the parents oblige them with things in order for the children to evolve, for them to grow gradually, and finally to awaken that, oh, they've become very refined, well balanced, grown up individuals. And that is the aim of God, because God says, Allah ghani wa antum fuqara. Allah is needless, you are in a state of need. Existentially, we need him. If he is like the light of the sun, then without that light, we are darkened beings. We are not even available to be observed. The fact is that had it not been for God's continuous supply of life and the source of life, we would be non-existent at every instance and every moment. So he is needless, but he obliges us in order for us to come of age. But even then, the Quran says, La ikraha fid deen. There is no compulsion in deen, in the way of life that God is giving us. I mean, obviously, the existential meaning of La ikraha fid deen might be something else, but in this specific sense. So if we choose to trust God and God's communications, and if we choose to trust the wisdom of the Blessed Prophet, then and only then will we come towards what is known as the ritual, ceremonial prayer. Now, we might say, well, I don't really understand the meaning of this and what it does for me. It is here that we need to conduct a rational sort of process of reasoning within our minds. Well, was the Blessed Prophet a successful man in creating a spiritual community? Yeah, he was. Is the Quranic message an immoral one? No, it isn't. Is it a spiritual, virtuous message? Yes, it is. Does God gain anything from my ibadah? No. What else does God say in the Quran? He says, well, whatever, through the Prophet, he mentions that whatever I've given you of the obligations of the Sharia, it is for those who want to make their way back to God. Is God the pinnacle of success, the absolute beauty, an ending? Is that my calling? Yes, it is. Then in that case, the Quran is saying that I am giving you these instructions for you to get back to me. So from here we understand that, okay, I might not be able to understand it fully, but God speaks the truth. He is a kind, good, beautiful, perfect God. His messenger was very loving, very caring. He wasn't a materialist. He wasn't an immoral person. He wasn't an unchaste person. He wasn't an indecent person. He was forgiving. He had all those beautiful qualities that I would expect in a godly human. His brothers like Isa, Ibrahim, Musa, they were all surrendered. They did not amass wealth. They were not greedy. If I trust them and their example is a perfect one, then fine. I will, in that case, say they know what they are saying. Two, by praying, it does me no harm. So why not give it a go? Then the question comes, why this particular form of prayer? Again, we say that had prostration, the posture not been beneficial, had the posture of ruku not been beneficial, had facing a certain direction not been beneficial in my individual existential capacity or communal capacity, then the Blessed Prophet would not have wastefully taught me that method. There must be something very good in there. So you can say, well, was it a momentary method that it's valid for some time and not? Well, say, well, no, actually, according to the Quran, sajda is a very prominent feature of devotion and adoration to God, as God mentions in terms of the past prophets. So is ruku. The verses that command the Israelites to do ruku might be because the Israelites were abandoning ruku, falling on the earth. Surely these things are existentially rooted, and that is why this particular form of prayer has been suggested. Now, does that mean we don't do any other form of meditation? Dhikr? No, the Quran itself says, remember Allah frequently, sitting, standing, on your sides, in your silent moments, in your public life, in sajdas, after sajdas. So all the other methods of yoga, meditation, mindfulness, they're all perfectly fine. But salah is something adamantly suggested by the Blessed Prophet and his blessed progeny. And the Quran talks about salah and as a communal act, as an individual act, and as something that was upheld from the time of Ismail. At least we get this mentioned onwards very, very prominently. Now, with that, we come to, well, what is salah in that sense before we start talking about salah? You see, as human beings, whether we like it or not, once we awaken within the confines of a body, the bodily limitations define us. They give us our identity. Added to that is culture, is the familial setup immediately, the culture, the religious, the political, economical, social environment around us. And before we know it, we become very identified with body and all these factors that we call bodily. Now, in that takes the sense of I-ness. Whether we like it or not, we are all beholden to our personal likes and dislikes. Our personal likes and dislikes constrict us, they restrict us. Now, I ask this question often, that a Jewish person who advocates that he is the chosen one, I mean, majority of the Jewish people are secularists. I'm talking about a Jewish person who is follower of the Jewish theology and who does not interpret it but understands it literally. I'm not trying to offend anybody. It's an example that I'm going to give. if he feels that he is the chosen one, because the text do say that the Israelites were the chosen ones, and even the Quran alludes to it that Allah favored them, and He gave them the Ard al-Muqaddas, and He has faddalnakum ala al-alamin, giving a preference over the whole of the entirety of mankind. It's all there in the Quran as well. Now, if he feels I am the favored one, and therefore everybody else is a Gentile and inferior to me, I would like to ask this question. Is this statement and judgment a part of your humanity and human condition untouched? Or is it a part of your upbringing, your culture, your environment? The answer is that had he not taken birth within a Jewish household, he would not have been saying that. Similarly, if I were to ask a Hindu that you bitterly justify your theology, your rituals, your ceremonies, your practices, you're ready to die for it. And we can see what is happening in India within amongst the extremist Jews and Hindus. We ask them, had you not taken birth within a Hindu household, would you have shared these sentiments? The answer would be probably not. I ask a Christian, had you not taken birth within a Trinitarian environment, would you be so committed and argue so intensely the point that only through Jesus can you find God and salvation? Would you have been of this disposition? The Christian would say, maybe not. I ask a Muslim, for you to condemn the rest of humanity to hell, had you not been born as Muslims, would you have done that in your human condition? The answer would probably not. I ask the Shia, for you to adamantly justify cursing, an act of cursing, had you not been born a Muslim, would you have found the act of ceremonial cursing something sitting well within your humanity and your humanness and your human conscience? They will say probably not. So, like it or not, our body and bodily governs us. It gives birth to the ego, and the ego, that personal likes and dislikes, prevails upon us. So even as Muslims, we are not Muslim, because Muslim means one surrendered. The surrender for us as Muslims and the Christians and the Jews and the Hindus and the Buddhists is a surrender of the body to the rules and regulations of the bodily within the name of religion and God. Salah, on the other hand, is an inner surrender. So it is not only the postures of Allahu Akbar and Ruku and Sujood, it is the inner being that is surrendering to God. And that is why Salah is transformative if done properly. Otherwise, the person who assassinated Imam Ali was a Musalli. The people who beheaded Imam Hussein and caused him to die of thirst before severing his blessed head prayed Salah, and the people who were with them prayed Salatul Janaza on their own dead who killed Imam Hussein. These were the bodies surrendered. Internally, the egos were not surrendered. So the first thing that happens with Salah is that this mighty individual has to be made mindful that, look, with all your might and your glory and your I-ness, you are coming to a point where you are going to lower your head in humility. Recognize what that means. You are going to lower your head to such a humble state that it will adorn the dust upon which you will not even walk. And that is why the Blessed Prophet used to say, "Ahfuru wujuhakum." Make sure your faces are covered with dust. And that's why sajda on earth is so important. Although it's not a necessary part of the formal salah, but for the spiritual salah, it's so important. Bibi Aisha narrates that some of the Sahaba used to do sajda, and the cloth of their amama would lower on their heads. The Blessed Prophet would physically go and remove it and say, no, let the dust of humility touch your foreheads and your cheeks. Humble yourself. That is why Imam Sadiq said, do not pray on the things worshipped by people, such as what? Silk clothes. Pray on earth so that you are reminded of your humble state, so that the inner being awakens. See the dust. And that's why I would often say in Hajj, when I would go at Hajj, that do not worry about getting your ihram dirty at Hajj. Let it be dirty, let it be filthy. Taste the taste of humility. Let yourselves be covered with dust. See that this is the body. The body is going back to dust. The inner being needs to awaken. So the first thing in Salah is, it's amazing that I am giving away, not robotically through my choice that I, the ego, have chosen to worship God. No. And therefore I will bow and prostrate. I am conceding my nothingness in front of the one. I appear. I bow my head as if it has no glory, no worth. I kiss the despicable dust with my head that would rather be cut than bow in humility. But today, I give in to the Lord of all lords, that this head that is my pride, Wajib, I adorn it with the dust of humility in front of you, O my Lord. That humility in Salah, that is the essence of Salah. And in front of whom? In front of the one that is most perfect, the personal God. He is the God unknown, unreachable. He is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. But at this point in my Salah, He is my personal God. He is everything I need to become. He is the Rabb Anal Marboob. He is the Lord. I am the nurtured. The nurtured needs to emerge in the form of the nurturer. Ali says so beautifully, you are Hadi. You are the guide. I am lost. You are Rahman, the merciful one, the mercifier. I am the one in the need of mercy. You are Hayy. I am Mayyit. To acknowledge that the one I approach is the peak of everything that I need to arrive at. I am its opposite. The opposite is giving himself away to awaken in the glorious form of that most complete one. So we need to humble ourselves. That's the first thing of Salah. And humble ourselves in front of who? In front of the one who is the peak of our aspiration, so that He, with His beloved hands, can mold us, break us, remold us, re-break us, and cause us to emerge in His image to the extent when He becomes pleased and He says, "O contented soul, return to your Lord. Come back, for now you have rejoined me. You were in a false world of assuming you were the other. I-ness prevailed upon you. You have broken the greatest idol now. After the idol has gone, rejoin your origin." I'm going to stop there as our time is over. Inshallah, continue next week. There's still a bit of prelude left before we get into the actual theme of the aspects of Salah.